A very warm welcome to everyone. We have come to the finals of the Bengal School Debating Star of the Year 2024. Before we commence with the program, I'll give you a short brief as to how we conducted this debate. We had over 200 to 300 participants in the preliminary round who submitted a 2-minute video, and we had screened it. After that, we had semi-finals at 3 zones: Durgapur, Shiliguri, and Kolkata. From those 3 zones, we have 8 finalists with us today. So a huge round of applause for the finalists who have made it today. The motion before the House today is this House believes that democracy is weakened by heroes. Before we proceed with the debate, I would like to invite Dr. Kunal Sarkar to share a few words on the debate. Sir, the podium is yours.
Natasha, thank you very much. I think it's a very foolish and a stupid man who comes between a good debate. So I think we'll try to keep it very brief. So for all you youngsters, it is especially somewhere in the vicinity of this room that about half a century ago that we started our little forays into public speaking, in debating and elocuting. And the main reason, some of us in St. Xavier's had this eagerness to sort of speak out into elocutions and debates was that the teachers were so strict, we were never allowed to speak in class. So I think the makings of a good debater depends upon 2 things. The teachers never allow you to speak in class, and the wives never allow to speak at home. So when you have a combination of these 2 factors, you look for the first possible opportunity where you go and vent your thoughts and whatever you want to speak. It's been a great journey through St. Xavier's. It's been a great journey not only in education, but also on the values on which we stand today. Have a great debate. And we live in a threshold of not only an information technology revolution, but remember, you youngsters are at the crossroads of a physiological revolution, because as intelligence increases, as human ability to compute increases, human ability to express decreases. It is happening hand in hand. And maybe, given a few hundred years from today, nature will sit down and think that the brain is needed, but is the voice box needed as well, or just a keyboard will suffice. Let us see. Nature will think in its own ways. Once again, thank you, Father. Thank you, St. Xavier's. And we would like to do many more workshops. We would like to spend many more time with the students over here. Not only students who come to our schools, regular schools over here, but with Shankar, Pradeep and all of us, we would like to engage with the students who come to the night schools and spend a few hours with them and interact with them. Not only we want to teach them something, but from you all we want to learn. Have a great morning of debating. Thank you, St. Xavier's. Thank you for all the organizing team putting in your hard work. And I congratulate all of you in advance. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would like to invite St. Xavier's Principal, Father Roshan Tirkia, on the stage.
Good morning and welcome to St. Xavier's College School. As Ibrahim Babangida has said, debate and divergence of views can only enrich our history and culture. So here we are, the young debaters, to enrich our history and culture under the umbrella of Calcutta Debating Circle. Thank you very much for choosing our school, St. Xavier's Collegiate School, for this grand finale of Bengal School Debating Star of the Year 2024. Let's continue to be connected, as Dr. Sarkar says, and he's always been connected with our school, being our boy. So let's continue to remain connected with St. Xavier's Collegiate School, and let us work together to create the enlightened leaders for our country and for the world. Prayerful wishes to all of you. Nihil ultra, nothing beyond. May God bless all of us. Thank you.
It's St. Mary's School, I think, from Patna, which has decided to join us as audience. Can the students please stand up? Thank you for coming. And Father Bhaskar, thank you so much for bringing them. It's wonderful that you have come all the way from Patna just to witness a debate. Thank you. I would like to call upon Mr. Shudipta Chaudhuri of Akash Institute to come and share a few words.
Good morning everyone present here. It has been a wonderful journey with CDC, Calcutta Debating Circle, because we keep on being associated with them, not just like a normal association. They are creating values, and which is gradually, diminishing from the society today. So that is the reason we always try to be with them, and we try to be associated with them so that we also can spread out. Akash Institute, what we do. We have nothing to do with what we are doing here today, but still we keep on promoting, because good things are always to be promoted, that we feel. And I was just talking to Pradeep sir this morning only. We are even interested to take this debating to our Patna chapter as well, because we have our centers in Patna, for which once again I am also responsible. So we will take it forward and we'll try to do some good work out there in Patna as well. So best wishes to all the participants out here, and my heartfelt thanks to all the members, jury out here from CDC. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Before I call upon the moderator to start the debate, I'd like to introduce our judges for today's debate. We have Mr. Sharon Banerjee. He's a graduate from Don Bosco Paksakers, and he got his undergraduate degree in economics at Presidency University, Kolkata. He then moved on for his master's in international economic policy as an Eiffel Excellence Scholar at Sciences PO. I can't read this, I'm so sorry. It's too difficult a French word. But anyway, welcome, Sharon. Can we have a huge round of applause, please? Our second judge for today is Ms. Roshni Chakraborty. She has graduated from Harvard College in 2021, after which she worked in the humanitarian sector for 2 years in Greece and Turkey, currently getting her JD at Harvard Law, pursuing a career in international human rights law. Her work is on war crimes, particularly in Eastern Europe. A long-time debater, studied at La Martiniere for Girls. We are so glad to have you today, Roshni. Thank you for agreeing to judge this debate. We have a third judge, but unfortunately she's not here yet. It's Mayuri Mukherjee. Once she's here, we'll just pause for a moment to give her a warm welcome. I would now like to call upon the moderator, Mr. Pradeep Gupta, on this stage to share a few words about the debate. Thank you.
Good morning, dear students, respected father, the family of St. Xavier's. We are very grateful to you for hosting us this morning, this debate. Sometimes we host debates in neutral venues, but it's always very important for us to get the energy from the audience that I feel in this hall. Diverse schools are here. Half a dozen schools are here. 8 speakers are here representing 7 schools, and of course the host institution. Calcutta Debating Circle is very grateful to all these schools and the students for being here this morning. As Natasha, my colleague Natasha Aziz told you earlier, this is a process. What you're seeing here is the icing on the cake, the end result of a chemical equation and a process. We started off by advertising and inviting students to send 2-minute speeches on a certain motion to our portal. Once we went through those speeches, we sort of broke them up into geographical areas, Tanya Bhardwaj and I went to Siliguri, where we had 6 speakers, selected one speaker who at this moment is traveling from the airport to the venue, Deepnita Goswami. Another team led by Mayuri Mukherjee went to Durgapur, selected one speaker who's already here, Bitonu Biswas. Bitonu is from Durgapur and a finalist. We welcome you. Thank you, Bitonu, for coming. A whole set of judges and chairmen presided over elimination debates at the Akash Center in South Calcutta. 2 parallel rooms had to be used because there were so many entries coming in from Kolkata. And out of that have come our other finalists who are here today. I think it's only fair that I should mention their name. Bhasha Bhattacharya, there's Agnish Chatterjee, there's Arya Bhattacharya, there's Satakshi Ghosh, and Deepnita Goswami is on her way, Devodipto Roy and Abhinav Chatterjee. You're going to hear the 8 best student speakers who have come out of this elaborate process. And I will take 1 more minute of your time to just tell you what our experience in Siliguri was. Siliguri is very well connected. So my colleague and I took a morning flight to Siliguri and we landed in the Akash Center, and the students came in one by one. And they were surprised that they had been selected, but they should not have been. Their speeches were excellent. They recorded speeches of 2 minutes. There were 2 students there who were repeat participants. A boy from a school in Darjeeling called Kinchum, and a girl, Deepnita. The others were novices, but nonetheless, they had come exceptionally well prepared. I was also very surprised to note that not only had they come very well prepared, they were accompanied by a parent, and the parents had told us, we will not sit in the room because it will make my child nervous. So Kunal was saying not being allowed to speak when you are under 18 years of old. I am happy to say parents in Siliguri are happy to let their children speak. So they stayed outside. Despite our repeated invitations, they refused to come into our room. And they stayed outside, and the students then debated. At the end of the debate, there were only 6 speakers, and they had 6 minutes each. 36 minutes, it was over. 3 of the students raised their hands and said, "Sir, the time did not permit me to make certain points. Can we continue this debate?" I said, "You can continue this debate, but I'm officially not allowed to mark you. Because while you are debating in Siliguri, a parallel debate is being held in Kolkata and Durgapur, following a process in which the debate ends at a certain time, after which you cannot be marked." They said, no, sir, we are here for the love of debating. We just want to discuss. We just want to debate what I would have said for the other side, what the other side would have said. So this is the enthusiasm that keeps us going. When Kunal was in this school, I was studying in a school 200 meters to the south of you called La Martiniere. After that, he went to Calcutta Medical College along with my much lamented colleague, Dr. Sandeep Chatterjee. I went to Presidency College, which virtually shares a wall with Calcutta Medical College. We started off our debating competition there. They were 2 years senior to me. And out of that madness was born Calcutta Debating Circle. Between 1981 and 84, that madness led to us organizing amateur debates every year round about puja time, and then the formation of this thing. And as Sandeep used to say with telling effect, we are here because you are trying to answer a question. But we are here because we want you to question the answers. Whatever is told to you, question that. Question that logically. Of course, some rules will have to be maintained. You will disagree with the statement, but you will not disagree with the speaker who makes the statement. And you will at all times use verbal violence, but not have even the slightest atom of physical violence in your mind. This is an exercise in non-violence. That is why we hold these debates. Now, it's very important that I introduce the speakers one by one, the teams for and against. So speaking for the motion, the first speaker will be, and here my policy dice come into play, so I need my specs. Bhasha Bhattacharya from class 11 Humanities, who aspires to be disgustingly overeducated. Thank you, Bhasha. That's a really interesting ambition to have in life. Speaking against, the first speaker, Ognish Chatterjee from class 11 Science, giving the joint entrance examination, he aspires to become a member of the cabinet. Ognish, which cabinet? The central or the state? Central. Okay, good, good. But aspire higher, aspire to become the Secretary General of United Nations. Yeah, don't settle down in India only. The third speaker for is Arya Bhattacharya, class 11 Humanities, who's interested in Himalayan history, in literature, in culture as a whole, and in geopolitics. Thank you, Arya. The fourth speaker and the second speaker against is Satakshi Ghosh, class 11. She wants to spend her days in an ocean of literature of all kinds, and she's aspiring to study English in the future, and she spends her day pretending to be at Hogwarts. Satakshi, if you have a wand anywhere close, kindly put it away. Class 9, yes. The next speaker for the motion is Bitanu. Bitanu is from Durgapur, class 12 Humanities. He's interested in history and geopolitics and aspiring to join the civil services. The next speaker who's against is Devdipto Roy from this very institution, class 11, aspiring to be a doctor and is fond of music, writing, speaking, and he's pleased to be part of the host institution today. The next speaker for is not here yet, that's Deepnita Goswami, but the speaker against, who is the last speaker of the debate, is Abhinav Chatterjee of class 11, a student of science aspiring to pursue the field of research. So Deepnita is yet to arrive. Before we begin, let us do something a little unusual. You in the audience, how many of you support the proposition? How many of you think that democracy is weakened by heroes? How many in the audience think that democracy is not served by heroes? So that's 4, 5 persons who think democracy is not served by heroes. Am I to assume then that everybody else thinks that democracy is not weakened by heroes, democracy is strengthened by heroes, or democracy is not weakened by anything at all? How many are against the motion? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 16. That's an overwhelming majority of 19 versus 4. How many of you wish to exercise the option of nota? None of the above. You're not bothered about democracy. You couldn't, think a minute, spare a minute for the heroes. I can see 1, 2, 3 hands who neither like democracy, 4 hands, 5 hands. Listen, if you voted once, don't do it again, huh? That's not the sort of hero we need on this platform today. Right. I have 6 hands saying that they are not so interested in what impact heroes have on democracy this way or that. Now for the rules of the debate. You will speak for 5 minutes each. You will hear a warning bell, and we need a timekeeper here. Who will be the timekeeper? You will be the timekeeper. That's Natasha who will do the honors. Once Natasha is here, after the end of 5 minutes, please wind up immediately because your opponents will have a question for you. When your opponents have a question, there's a golden rule of asking questions, which is, 1, it should be shorter than the speech. That's very important. Huh? Number 2, there should be a question mark. Don't try to recite the scriptures here, that's not done. And the third is, understand that the shorter the question, the more difficult is it for the person replying to frame an answer. Don't give him time to prepare. I have seen many tricks, questions being asked and people saying, what's that? Couldn't hear that, say that again. I will allow that once, but don't do it every time. Huh? So ask short, crisp questions. The speakers will be marked on content, on delivery, on language, on analysis, and on the quality of their reply to the question. We will try to encourage questions from the audience too at the end, time permitting. And of course, the judges who are here from really eminent institutions will give their comments at the end. Now, about the judges, I have a personal note to share. They were like you student debaters in CDC events many years ago, and I'm very, very happy. One is from Cornell, the other one is from Harvard, and the third person from the University of New York. And they are brilliant debaters in their own rights. I wish you could hear them speak at a debate. They're brilliant debaters in their own right. So we thought, who better to judge a debate of champions than champions themselves? Because they were champion debaters when they were your age. I don't know whether you have time to debate now. I know that Cornell hasn't yet sent a team to CDC events, but Harvard is a regular. Round about the winter, the email for the summer things start. Round about the summer, the emails for the winter visit starts. And we've had a long-standing relationship with Harvard and with Yale in terms of exchange of speakers and training. I'll just end with CDC 2 words, which is that on the 11th of January, we are holding an exhibition debate at the Calcutta Club. The motion for that debate is, justice is often demanded, but seldom delivered. We have eminent jurists and lawyers, as well as members of civil society speaking at that debate. 11th of January, the advertising will start by the 2nd or 3rd of January. All of you students who want to attend such a large format debate, because there will be more than 1,000 people there, please register. We will be happy to welcome you in our midst as part of the debate. The second announcement is, students in this debate, in these finals, we will try to get you with us so that you can be part of the Young India jury who will question the speakers on the stage. And the speakers include, as I said, Abhishek Manu Singhvi, retired judges of the High Court, Chief Justices of the High Court, and eminent members of civil society. In conclusion, only one, Deepnita's on her way from the airport. Okay, so just one word. We were young once. That was approximately half a century ago. Kunal and I and my late friend Sandeep and Shankar. We met these marvelous young debaters, Natasha, Sharon, Roshni, Mayuri, Tania. Those of them who are in Kolkata are now our trustees. And it is my fervent hope that you will continue to feature in our lives so that CDC can go on for 100 years in hands of young debaters such as you and those who follow you. Because that's what this movement is about, to have a public discourse forum that lasts and lasts and lasts. Once again, welcome to the team from Patna. Thank you so much for coming. And also the other visitors who have come, all the schools who have come. We can now formally begin the debate, Natasha? Okay. So before I take my seat in splendid isolation at the middle. Oh, Mayuri, yes, you have to introduce her. Mayuri, will you introduce her, please? Okay. I met Mayuri Mukherjee, Mayuri, will you please stand up? Who is a very benign-looking young girl in presidency. And the first debate she spoke in, it was a past versus present debate. She reduced most of the speakers in the past team to tears. That's when I realized that we had a debating champion in her hands. Mayuri has won innumerable national championships. She was studying biosciences in presidency. Then her career took an unusual turn and she joined the Delhi School of Economics to pursue a master's in sociology, from where, in keeping with her brilliant academic skills and I'm sure her skills in public speaking, that always helps, she is now at New York and Columbia or in NYU pursuing a PhD in anthropology. So this is a personality who's delved into 3 different aspects of the educational spectrum. There's biosciences, sociology, and anthropology. I'm sure we'll hear a great deal of her, but she's also a very brilliant debater. And you will be very careful when you speak before her. So my participants, I'll tell you only one thing. Don't be tense. Yes, speak. When you speak, establish eye contact with the judges. Don't read out. You're not a news reader. You're not aspiring to be in Doordarshan or TV18 or the other channels that shout and scream. You're aspiring to be an intellectual achiever. So look at the judges and speak. Speak without tension. First speaker for this morning is Bhasha Bhattacharya, who has constantly been telling me she's been very tense. So Bhasha, get over your tension.
Well, now I kind of have to. So, unhappy is the land that breeds no hero. No, Andrea. Unhappy is the land that needs a hero. That's from Galileo by Bertolt Brecht. So if it's not a hero we need, what do we need? It's democracy, the first word in this motion. Now, being the first speaker, it's my duty to tell you what democracy is, coming from the Greek words demos and kratos, it meaning people and rule. The word literally means a rule by the people. Now, what is the aim of democracy? It is a participation of the most in the government. Got that aim? Lock it in. We'll need it later. Now, who is this most whose welfare the democracy wishes to work for? Leaders playing with identity politics will tell you that it's a certain people from certain religion, it's a people from certain race, or any other identity that serves their own purpose and their own propaganda. Now, where's the thing about identity politics coming from anyway? We've seen in history leaders playing with identity politics in the name of democracy. We have the Hitler-Goebbels duo that made the blue-eyed blonde Aryan the most that democracy was working for. And how is this done? This is done through otherization, where you are taught that, Mitron, we had an amazing history, an amazing past, and now this other is destroying it. So you need a hero, a chowkidar. Now, in Nazi Germany, this other was Jews and communists. In USA, it's the immigrants. In India, it's Muslims. In Bangladesh, it's Hindus and Buddhists. In South Africa, it was the blacks. So if this is not the real most, who is the real most? The real most in any democracy is the have-nots. Because in any cross-section, be it religion, caste, race, any cross-section, you have haves and have-nots, and the true work of democracy is to work for the welfare of these have-nots. Now, minorities still exist in electoral politics and legislature, and their existence is very important because they are the opposition that keeps a check on the government. But our own hero Manonia Didi prescribed that the opposition tape their mouth for the next 10 years. Yesterday, they didn't even let the opposition enter the parliament, okay? So that goes against democracy now, doesn't it? This is the goal of heroes, to shut the opposition, to make people forget about their real problems like unemployment and corruption while they fly about with a red cape or blue slippers. Now, how is this done? What is the origin story of heroes? I'll tell you, and it's not as cool as looking at the camera, breaking the fourth wall and saying, I am Iron Man. It's not. It follows the propaganda model by Noam Chomsky, which explains how population is manipulated and the consent for social, economic, and political policies are manufactured in the public mind due to propaganda. Hundreds and billions of dollars are spent every year to control the public mind. We remember that Hitler did this, rallying people into believing that Jews are horrible. An example of this in the present would be the WhatsApp University, where without you ever realizing, you are being shown that this is the other, and you are being shown a hero who's going to fight for you. This is how heroes are really created. Now, let's go into the hazards of a hero. Due to the mass hysteria that takes place when somebody announces that they are Iron Man, the stake and voice of the people, the majority, the minority, the opposition, everything gets taken away. Now, in a system where you're supposed to prioritize the people, isn't that ironic? Remember that aim I told you about? Goes completely against it, doesn't it? So it's not just weakening, it's destroying democracy altogether. Now, people become less important when there is a hero in the horizon. And how less important are we talking? We are talking about making lampshades out of human skin. Yes, that happened in Nazi Germany in Buchenwald concentration camp. Now, people become, and the death of a person, people become so unimportant, and the death of a person becomes, as Donna Tartt puts it, just a redistribution of matter. But why does people fall for this hero worship if it's so horrible? You have a father whose job is corrupted and his son doesn't have employment, and the pressure is burning up. And right at that moment, in the scene, a hero like Amitabh Bachchan walks in and destroys all the enemies on his own, and they go flying about. And in the distance, you hear a psh, like that. That's the pressure going away, all the social pressure going away, and because people think that my hero is fighting for me, and this worshipping leads the hero to believe that he's larger than life as well. Larger than life as well. Larger than life as well. And then Raju becomes a gentleman, and the PM becomes a non-biological son of a god. With that, I'd like to end my speech with a quote that the first quote that comes up when you Google hero quotes, show me a hero and I'll write you a tragedy. That's F. Scott Fitzgerald, everyone. It's not a tragedy for the hero, it's a tragedy for the people he leads. With that, I end my speech.
You have to take a question.
Thank you. Yeah.
Right.
Question.
Thank you, Bhasha. That ranged from the Greek demos through Bertolt Brecht to Hitler and Goebbels, and finally Noam Chomsky and somebody who calls everybody a Mitro. Right? Thank you.
God knows who
has
that
a
is.
question from the other side? Yes. And that's Devdipto.
Hello.
Yes.
Bhasha, you mentioned Hitler, you mentioned how he has been most violent, most undemocratic with a certain segment of the population. But is he a hero to those people? Because he is a hero to that white, Caucasian, blue-eyed German person, and he is being equal with them. But he's not a hero with the other segment, the Jews. So that is beyond the ambit, is it not? Thank you.
Well, that was my point of otherization. He's making an other of their own neighbors. That was my whole point of otherization. I think you've missed it.
Right, thank you. Will you take a second question? Is there a second question from the side? Anybody has a question? Yeah, Avinav, yes. You don't mind taking a second question, no? Okay.
I'm stressed anyway, so.
Thank you for your speech, ma'am. Ma'am, you spoke about Hitler and his influence in Nazi Germany and how he was worshipped as a hero. Do you not recognize the fact that Hitler was never a product of democracy in the first place? He was a product of the people who believed in the propaganda he spread. So how do you come up here and justify blaming democracy as a constant which is weakened by Hitler's regime?
Hitler was an elected leader. That's why.
Yes. Thank you, Bhasha.
Thank you.
Bhasha has the point. Hitler was actually elected in the last days of the Weimar Republic and emerged as the single largest party. Thank you. The next speaker against the motion, naturally, is Agnish Chatterjee. Agnish, to remind you, studies in class 11 and is a student of science. This is a future cabinet member, so watch him carefully. Yes, Agnish, start.
I don't know about side proposition, but I definitely need a hero in my life. This month, my hero has been Jasprit Bumrah. 2 months from now, when I'll have my annual examinations, my hero will be my physics teacher. A very good morning to one and all present here. I am Agnish Chatterjee, and today I will be opposing the motion presented before us. Ladies and gentlemen, the fundamental aspect of today's motion is establishing a connection between heroes and democracy. Now, as we know, democracy is a system where the people elect their representatives. It is important to note that a democracy does not ensure equality in social status or economic equality. It only ensures political equality, ladies and gentlemen. That is why what the majority wants, that is what is going to happen in a democracy. Today, if India wants Gukesh to be their hero, then Gukesh will be a hero. However, in an autocracy, ladies and gentlemen, it is the government that decides the hero for the people. And now I will be talking about why a properly functioning democracy needs that one person who stands out. It needs that one extraordinary individual who represents the common man, who the common man looks up to for inspiration and motivation, ladies and gentlemen. Let's take this debate for an example. Let's say the judges are the people of a democracy and we are competing with each other to gain the trust of the judges. There will be one debater at the end of today's debate that will stand out and he will be the best speaker. Similarly, in a democracy also, there will be that one individual who stands out, and that individual will be the hero of the people. That individual will be the person that the common man looks up to. That person will be the one that represents the needs and requirements of the common man, ladies and gentlemen. That is why I firmly believe that a hero is essential for a functioning democracy. Moving on to my second argument. Ladies and gentlemen, by the very conventional definition of a hero according to society is a person who upholds democratic principles. Today, do we consider Hitler as a hero? No, we do not consider Hitler as a hero. We consider him as a villain. Therefore, anyone going against democratic ideals is automatically considered as a villain by today's society. In order to understand my point, let's take Thanos for an example. Thanos wanted to wipe out half the humanity because he understood the risks of overpopulation and how it would lead to the inevitable doom of the people. That is why he decided to wipe out half the population so that the other half gets a better life, ladies and gentlemen. But he was considered a villain. Why? Because he violated the very fundamental democratic rights of a person, that is the right to live. Let's talk about Mahatma Gandhi. I worship Mahatma Gandhi as a hero. The nation worships Mahatma Gandhi as a hero. Why? Because he got us our political rights. He got us our independence, ladies and gentlemen. I don't need to say that he is rumored to play a pivotal role in the partition of India. Yet, his face is on the currency notes. Yet, every person in the country worships him as a hero. Why, ladies and gentlemen? Because he was a person who strengthened democracy. He was a person who brought the democratic structure into our country. Let's say side propositions arguments are true. Let's say a person like Subhash Chandra Bose, who fought against the British and got us independence and our democratic rights, is indeed a person who weakens democracy. Let's say we remove heroes from the country, right? There are no heroes left anymore. What do you think will happen? The politicians will exploit the people because there'll be no one to stand up for them. The politicians will oppress the basic democratic rights of an individual, which includes freedom of speech and other things. Now, let's say side proposition is very courageous, right? And they stand up against the politicians. They fight for the democratic rights of the people. Then who do you think will become the hero? Side proposition themselves. Thank you. Very proud to oppose.
Thank you. Who has a question for him? Yes, Bitonu. Use the mic.
Do you think that heroes are necessarily apolitical?
Listen, understand that today, my constructive today is that in a democracy, the heroes are elected by the people themselves. For example, Gukesh won the World Chess Championship, right? It does not have to be apolitical. Someone like a Gandhi who brought the democratic structure into our country, someone like a Subhash Chandra Bose who believed in socialism, he is a hero in our country, right? Yet, he is a hero in our country. Why? Because he was responsible for giving us our political rights. He was a person for giving political equality to our country and freeing us from the tyranny of British rule. That is why he is considered as a hero. Therefore, by the very conventional definition of a hero in our society, anyone who upholds democracy, anyone who protects democracy is considered as a hero automatically. And anyone going against democracy is termed as a villain, ladies and gentlemen. And that was my constructive.
Right. Thank you. Will you take a second question?
Sure.
Anybody has a second question for him? No? Thank you. Take your seat. He's very intelligently latched onto the word hero and says anybody who does harm is not a hero but a villain. But meanwhile, welcome Deepnita. Deepnita's flown in all the way from Siliguri. She's landed at the airport and come straight to the venue. Welcome, Deepnita. I hope you are free to visit the, to freshen up and wash your face if you want to, and you can rejoin us. You're all right? Right. Thank you. Thanks. The next speaker is Arya Bhattacharya, who is wearing a large number of medals, which indicates he's a hero already in some platform. So I'm waiting to hear from him what he thinks about democracy in general.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, members of the House, heroism in the Indian context is something that requires a great amount of devotion. Now, this reminds me of a quote by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, when he said that, bhakti or devotion in religion is salvation. On the other hand, bhakti, when it comes to politics, leads to enslavement. And ladies and gentlemen, we live in a country today when the Home Minister comes up and asks the opposition to repeat the name of God instead of that of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, because it will lead you to salvation. Now, I think in the context of the current debate, ladies and gentlemen, we can clearly understand which part of the debate is enslaved. Now, this brings me on to my first argument. Heroism leads to enslavement. The word hero, ladies and gentlemen, refers to a person who's worth admiration and respect. But we have two very important keywords to hold here. Number one, democracy, and number two, politics, both of which are closely related. Now, when we take the word hero to democracy, it leads to a deification of the individual. We give him a status that is larger than life, that gives him a godlike status, that gives him a mythical status. And what does that lead to, ladies and gentlemen? It's a very simple outcome. It leads to something called a personality cult around the individual, which blindfolds the population to the flaws of the individual because he is giving that stature of being larger than life. Now, what does that lead to? I'll give you two examples. Number one, when Ronald Reagan introduced tax cuts for the rich at the expense of the poor in America, he wasn't sent out of office. On the other hand, when the mighty Baroness Thatcher introduced the fact that there was a housing crisis in England for the first time, it took a very, very long time for the opposition to send the person out of power, for the simple reason, ladies and gentlemen, that their parties had been successful in forming a personality cult around themselves, which brings me to my second point. Where there is a hero, there needs to be a creation of the villain as well. Now, the core concept of democracy is consensus, ladies and gentlemen, and it allows for conflicts in only two major regions. Number one, in policies, and number two, in ideologies. But what does the introduction of a hero do? In this case, it devolves democracy and it hits at its core ideals. It devolves democracy into something we all know as an oligarchy, because it turns into a war between person and not between the one ideology versus the other ideology. Now, what does that actually lead to? I'll give you two examples for this as well. The present dispensation has been very, very successful in categorizing itself as glorious, but at a cost, ladies and gentlemen. The fact that this has been done by villainizing the first Prime Minister of our country, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, on multiple counts. Nehruvian socialism and ideology has been attacked on numerous counts. But is that fair, ladies and gentlemen? Because it has been an ideology that has led a majority of South Asia to... it has given the majority of South Asia a lot of hope in itself, ladies and gentlemen. And on the other hand, we live in a state where men can be relaxed because they are assured of the fact that every month they'll be receiving 5,000 rupees because of their daughters, because of their wives, and also because of their mothers, without doing any other work, due to schemes named after Indian goddesses. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is something that we call heroic. On the other hand, that will lead to the villainization of actual policies which depend on the fact that you need to work to get the benefits. This brings me on to my last and final construct, ladies and gentlemen, that hero is always seen as a word with a positive connotation. And yes, it does, but only for the person who has his vested interests in the hero. So the word hero itself is very ambiguous, ladies and gentlemen, because a person who is a hero for one person might not be the hero for the other person. He might be a villain for the other person. The greatest American hero ever born, ladies and gentlemen, the great Nobel laureate Barack Obama, is a villain for a majority of innocent civilians, for the simple reason that they did not even know a person called Barack Obama existed before he launched a military action on the country. On the other hand, social media is going gaga over the fact that Bashar al-Assad has fled Syria. But what we must remember, ladies and gentlemen, is that the regime that currently occupies Syria has close ties with a particular entity that showed us that Jenga can be actually played in real life. 9/11, ladies and gentlemen, Al-Qaeda. Now, if you are a person with a minimum amount of conscience, I think you'll know what to say in this. And with that, I rest my case, but not my stance. Thank you.
Thank you, Arya. Hero is a function of time and place.
Yes, sir.
Right? Oh, today's hero may not be one tomorrow, whether it's physics teacher or Jasprit Bumrah. And also, when you're a hero to somebody today, maybe you're not so rosy in the eyes of others. Lots of hands. Yes, Agnish, you go with the first question and then Deepta.
Thank you, Arya, for your speech. So, do you think that, considering the motion states democracy, do you think it is the majority that chooses a hero, or it is one individual who chooses the hero?
See, here's the thing. When you often choose a hero, over here, let us take a look at a hero as an individual. Now, who is a hero? A hero is a person whom you admire. Now, if one person chooses a hero, that is his personal outlook. But when we look at democracy as a whole in this perspective, which means that it must have a majoritarian sense, which means that the influence of people and people in whole must be taken into account. Therefore, I believe, yes, this motion refers to the fact that it is indeed a hero who's idolized by a majority of the population, of a major part of the population.
Okay. Will you take a second question? Very short question.
Of course,
Yeah?
sir.
So you've mentioned how there's a certain segment of population to whom one particular entity is a hero. Maybe that same entity is a villain to a different set of the population.
Absolutely.
So basically you bring out how the word hero is ambiguous.
Absolutely.
And because it is a word of the motion, why do you support this motion if this word is ambiguous?
See, here's the thing. When the motion states that the House believes that democracy is weakened by heroes, heroes over here refers to political heroes for the simple reason that you have the word democracy here. And it is something that affects us on a daily basis. It affects you, it affects all of us, and at the same time, it affects the day-to-day functioning of our life and society. It is not isolated. See, if you spoke about movie stars, it would be wonderful to bring in the fact that Ethan Hunt might have succeeded to destroy the Kremlin. But did that happen? No, it did not.
Right.
Therefore, yeah.
Thank you,
sir.
Arya. Thank you for your very spirited speech and equally spirited replies. Satakshi Ghosh is up next. And Satakshi, just to remind you, is a student of class 9 who loves actual literature, and she perpetually thinks she's at Hogwarts.
If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, you are a hero too. Good morning, esteemed judges, worthy opponents, and a lovely audience. I am Satakshi Ghosh from Mahadevi Birla World Academy, going against the motion. This house believes that democracy is weakened by heroes. Well, the words I quoted at the beginning were written by Kipling, Rudyard Kipling, and I believe it embodies the essence of what it means to be a hero. Someone who leads with integrity and courage. For me, a hero is someone who questions, who has the courage to question every action and decision, and that is exactly, ladies and gentlemen, what happens in a democracy. The idea that the proposition is harping on today is, if we have a hero in democracy, then essentially the government is run on the charisma of an individual. Well, as Bhasha mentioned with her example of Hitler, well, that is a dangerous simplification. A hero is not a mass charismatic leader. It is someone who puts their people and their country's interests over and above their own. They are someone who can sacrifice and not want any due in return. And it is often later in life that a hero's worth is truly understood, much like that of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who is a profound example of what it means to be a true hero in a democracy. He was not driven by personal fame or power. In fact, in 1932, when the British government offered him the Communal Award, which would have given Dalits separate electorates, yet it would have given also separation, which is why he stood firm and he rejected it. His courage was evident when he negotiated with Mahatma Gandhi on what came to be known as the Pune Pact, giving Dalits greater political representation. Despite being one of the principal architects of the Indian Constitution, he went ahead and criticized the very constitution he had worked so hard to make. Why? Because he knew it had failed to provide the economic and social justice that the constitution had promised. And he is considered a hero today, even though when he was alive he did not get his due, is because he was not afraid to speak the truth. He was not afraid to highlight the paradoxes that characterized India, and he was not afraid to go against what was his own. I'm sorry, Arya, but heroism does not lead to enslavement. The cult of heroism leads to enslavement. And the cult of heroism is a misunderstanding to the role that heroes should play in the society today. Heroes should not be seen as saviors who can solve complex societal problems. No. They are catalysts who inspire and challenge us to engage in the democratic process by focusing on the collective power of democratic participation. A great example, a pretty recent example of how true heroes of a democracy are the people themselves are the protests of anti-CAA and NRC, which had swept across India in late 2019 and 2020. The protests were sparked by the passing of the Citizenship Amendment Act, which was viewed as discriminatory, and the proposed National Register of Citizens, which marginalized millions, especially Muslims, and undermined India's secular fabric. What we saw, ladies and gentlemen, was not the rise of a singular hero or a charismatic figure, but a mass movement where citizens from all walks of life, be it women, be it children, be it students, be it minorities, they came together and challenged government policies. And heroes are not those who always win. Heroes are those who always try, and these are the people, ladies and gentlemen, we need today, because institutions and structures that support the democratic ideals are now breaking down. International organizations are but a diplomatic cosplay, much like the United Nations during the Kashmir crisis in 2019. In such a world where institutions cannot uphold democratic ideals, we need individuals. We need these individuals to go against the grain, to challenge the status quo, who refuse to conform. Those are the true heroes. In the words of William Shakespeare, what's past is prologue. True heroes challenge the past, rewrite the present, and shape the future through their actions. And it's not the actions of a few. It's the actions of collective will. And that is exactly how we will get a democracy that is truly by the people, for the people, and of the people. Let us be those heroes today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Satakshi. Who has a question for our Arya? Yes, and Deepnita will come to you after that.
Ma'am, one of your primary points was attacking the fact that a leader is a leader, a hero is a hero because of his actions and not because of the fact that he has charisma. So do you mean to say that that one leader can be independent of the other? For example, a leader can do a lot of work but cannot have charisma, and a leader may not have charisma but at the same time do a lot of work.
I would like to mention the fact that the leader does not need to be the hero. A hero and a leader is not the same.
Right. Done?
Okay. Yeah.
Deepnita, you have a question? Just pass the mic to Deepnita. It's on.
Hello, ma'am. You said that hero is someone who helped the people and come out to be a source of inspiration. But even Robert Mugabe helped his people and became a hero. But then he is highly criticized for his dictatorship. Do you still support hero worship?
I would like to bring in the fact that power changes people, and when people change, the perception of the person changes. And when the perception of the person changes, how can you still perceive them as a hero?
Thank you, Satakshi. I think the phrase you were looking for is power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. One of the famous truisms in history. But you introduced a new concept, that of a hero being a catalyst, which I appreciate, and I'm sure all your colleagues in the debating platform will also appreciate. Bitonu Biswas from Durgapur is our next speaker, and he will be speaking for the motion. He loves history and geopolitics and aspires to be in the civil services, among other things. Bitonu.
Government of the people, by the people, for the people. Good morning, everyone present here in this distinguished gathering. Myself, Bitonu Biswas. And today, I'll be speaking for the motion, "This House believes that democracy is weakened by heroes." The quotation is quite a famous quotation by the 16th American president, Abraham Lincoln. And it's quite a good definition of the term democracy itself, which is derived from two Greek terms, particularly demos and kratia, which mean the rule of the people. The question is, heroes, who are they? Heroes are mainly socio-political entities who are leaders somewhere or the other. Someone just cannot be a leader out of the blue. They are socio-political entities who organize public opinion, gain the support, come to the forefront, and pledge to work in favor of the masses. Well, if this is the idea, let me put forward a number of examples which prove this very idea a bit wrong. The very recent instance of the Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina fleeing Bangladesh. What happened in that country? In that country, severe authoritarian regime was continuing since a long period of time. If people remember, this year only the general elections took place in Bangladesh, and over there, the main opposition party was not allowed to contest the elections. Another very important leader, Khaleda Zia of Bangladesh herself. Why am I mentioning these two? Because these two very prominent leaders were considered to be hero faces for a particular faction of Bangladeshi citizens. And at the end of the day, they proved to be authoritarian. And even Khaleda Zia has gone through imprisonment sentences since 2018. Going for a few other examples, the first US President, George Washington. On one hand, he was a hero for the whites, and on the other hand, he was the face of tyranny for the aboriginals. Same is applicable for the Athenian democracy, where we see Pericles as a great Athenian leader, and at the same time, he was the main architect of the Peloponnesian War. Nevertheless, it was the same for Indira Gandhi in India as well. The person who brought the emergency procedure, and in the month of June 1975, emergency was proclaimed for the third time in India during her regime, that too because of her own interests, during which time the authoritarian regime exploited each and every possible national resource, and the brutalities were so extreme that the citizens suffered like anything, from press censorship to speech censorship, from the parliament to the open forum. Everywhere they could see nothing but censorship. Opinion manipulation, a very important factor when it comes to the heroes, the people whom we call heroes. Actually, what it means is heroes do nothing but opinion manipulation through supporting. And henceforth, heroes use public opinion as a husk to cover their mask of entire public welfare and authoritarianism at the same time simultaneously. public welfare and public opinion, social justice or whatsoever is nothing but a masquerading procedure through which they try to establish their own authoritarianism. Thank you.
Thank you, Pitanu. Who has a question? Yes, Agnish.
Thank you, sir, for your speech. Sir, in your speech, you mentioned that heroes are socio-political figures and most of them manipulate opinions, right? So, Gukesh, who recently won the world championship in chess, is considered as a hero in our country. Do you think he fits the definition of whatever you define hero as?
Actually, Gukesh, he is not a political entity. We are specifically discussing about democracy. And if we consider Gukesh, he can be an individual hero. But he cannot be a hero when it comes to the political definition because we are talking about democracy.
Yes.
Just a very small question. Do you think democracy is the word in all its aspects is only confined to a political sphere? Yes or no?
It is not confined to a political sphere necessarily. It encompasses all the boundaries of politics and goes beyond that. Yes, very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Bitanu. May we have a round of applause from Bitanu, who's traveled all the way from Durgapur to be part of this debate. Well done. Devdipto, it's yours. Devdipto, besides being one of the best speakers in Kolkata, is also a student of the host institution. Shankar, yes, you should clap.
Just a moment.
Yes, start.
Members of the House, we see throughout so many speeches before us what democracy has been. Let me bring in Tagore, the meaning of democracy through his song, Amra Shobai Raja, Amader Ei Rajar Rajotte. So what does it fundamentally imply? You know, North Korea calls itself a democracy, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. But what exactly is a democracy? What is the one immutable phrase when it comes to democracy? It is majority rule. It is the rule of the people, demos and kratos, as was mentioned by both the sides today. We understand also that heroes are those reputed individuals, those entities, those socio-political entities, as Bitanu mentioned, and they do not have any absolute definition. A hero is relative to the human gaze that views it. They are well acclaimed, they have earned their good repute, all because of some worthy deed that they have done. And this is something Satakshi highlighted before as well. We come to the cult of hero worship and how, and I would say it is sort of parallel to the concept of a hero. And this will bring me to Weber's theory of charismatic leadership or authority. I'll touch upon this in a while. There's one bottom line that needs to be mentioned. Somebody was asking for a connection between democracy and hero. It is this. It is the democratic opinion. It is the opinion of the many. It is the opinion of the majority of the people that makes a person a hero. Because a majority of the concerned people, and it's very important to keep the word concerned in mind, think of that person as a hero. That person becomes a hero. I think, therefore I am. Cogito ergo sum, as said by Descartes. This is why we might as well say to certain individuals in Nazi Germany, Hitler was a hero. Because these are the concerned individuals, a majority of whom believed he was a hero. And I think Bhasha mentioned about his elected pose as a leader, but when it came to Hitler's election, so to speak, he was elected by a majority of 75% of the 51% of the population of Germany during that time because of the Weimar Republic's incapacity. And that is exactly where he was a hero to those people, that segment of people, and not beyond it. We come to democracy in two ways. The democracy in macro politics, where we see the rule of law, where all are equal before the law. And this is one place where the proposition seems to argue that those who are celebrated, those who are called as the heroes, well-acclaimed people, they think they are beyond the law. But this is where, and I would like to bring in Woodhouse here, the proposition seem like a party where you cough 2 times before you speak and decide not to speak at all. Because they forget that in the age of knowledge economy, in the age where society and the media, the 4th pillar of democracy, have so much to say, these actions of the heroes, every move of theirs is much, much more well aware to the society. And they keep a check on everything. This is exactly where heroes and the supposed corruption which the opposition brings up, that is kept in check. We might also consider the hero to be similar to a leader in a presidential setup, such as in the president or the prime minister, the leader. But now let's come to the question I asked Bitonu about the micro personal level. Let's come to a cohesive unit of individuals, a family. The modern day nuclear family, do you think democracy isn't exercised there? Why? Let's take the bread earner of the family. Let's take that person to be the hero. Will whatever he does, will it not be consulting the opinions of the other family members or for these other family members? So we must see how we have individual discrete units of society as families, which can very well be called democracies. And this is also where we see democracy exercised in a scale which goes beyond the political. We must realize how a hero is someone whose best elements are emulated, whose best heroic attributes are something of inspiration for the masses. And this, in fact, strengthens the democracy. The rule of the people as individual units are strengthened by this. There are so many examples of Mahatma Gandhi and his Satyagraha, and so many others which will be mentioned, have been mentioned today. But there's one bottom line I will obviously touch. Democracy. Demos and Kratos, the rule of the people, Amra Shobai Raja. We cannot have a rule without responsibility. And in the rule of the people, if we have made somebody a hero, and he is a hero in our opinion, it is our onus. We have the responsibility when that person does something which goes beyond our sensibilities. Whenever it goes beyond the sensibilities of the 51% of the people, it is we, the people, who made him that hero, who had that rule, who had that responsibility, who have that onus. And that is a natural part and parcel of democracy, members of the House. If a hero does something against the sensibilities of the 51% of people who think he is a hero, it is a part of how democracy works. It is our responsibility when we made him a hero to ensure it was not so. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Devdipto. Questions? He silenced his opponents completely. Not a single question from the other side. Yes, Arya, please. Use the mic.
So Devdipto, in the last part of your speech, you mentioned that the democracy and that the democratic process is all about, keeping your heroes in check to how they might affect your community or society at large. So do you or do you not believe that democracy is indeed weakened by heroes?
Again, this brings me to the last part I ended with, right? When I make him a hero, it is my responsibility when I have made him a hero, right? So when that person does do something going against my sensibilities, it is my responsibility. Democracy isn't weakened when it is exercised naturally, as it were. And if it was to be weakened, the upheaval received because of the media, because of our democratic opinions, would be enough to check that. And that is also exercise of democracy. Thank you.
Yes, Deepnita.
Keeping your last answer in mind, I would say using the phrase, I elected a leader, would be better than using a phrase, I elected a hero. How do you defend that? Because we elect the leaders, not the heroes.
But I believe your side is supporting a motion where we talk about heroes, and heroes are made. And somebody said, a leader need not necessarily be the only hero. A hero can be seen in different setups altogether. Democracy can be seen in different setups altogether. So keeping all of this in mind, it's not only a leader I'm talking about heroes in general, the broader sense of the term.
Thank you, Devdipto.
Thank you,
Take your seat. When we were in school, this was often repeated to us, Some are born great, some acquire greatness, and a lot more have greatness thrust upon them. I wonder if it has any relevance in the description of heroes. Deepnita, you're up next as the last speaker for the proposition, and Deepnita's just arrived by flight from Siliguri, so over to you.
A very good afternoon to my respected judges and everyone sitting here. Today, I, Deepnita Goswami of Class 12 Science, will be speaking in favor of the motion that democracy is weakened by heroes. What's the first thing which comes to your mind when I use the word hero? Salman Khan? Shah Rukh Khan? All right, let's keep Bollywood aside for a while. In a very layman's language, hero is someone who is admired for his skills, talent, courage, and achievement. But what if I tell you that sometimes these heroes turn out to be a villain, against democracy. Let me tell you a story of one such hero, Robert Mugabe. The son of a village carpenter, he was trained to become a teacher in a Catholic school. The first time he came across politics was when he was a university student, and then he contested election in his future and won it and became the president of Zimbabwe for 30 long years. Everything was going fine. He was quite popularized for his good deeds and came to be known as the hero of Zimbabwe. But as the saying goes, even Pradeep sir mentioned, power corrupts, but absolute power corrupts absolutely. He ruined the country through economic collapse, represented in the form of massacre of civilians and corruption. Once Plato said, and I quote, "Dictatorship naturally arises out of democracy, and the most aggravated form of tyranny and slavery out of the most extreme liberty." Heard of Saddam Hussein? Another hero to talk about. He was also a very capable man who helped his country grow by protecting the territory of Iraq, but the moment he became the president, he turned into a dictator. He showed exact opposite judgment and skills to what he had shown when he was the vice president, which led to the Iran-Iraq war, genocide, killing millions of Iraqis. Hun Sen, even he was considered to be the hero of his nation, Cambodia, but he's highly criticized for his 38 long years of dictatorship. The day would end, but the stories of such heroes would not. By the people, for the people, to the people. The three principles of democracy. But then, how do you defend the military coup which happened in Bangladesh from the year 1975 to 1991? Military overshadows democracy in Bangladesh. A quote used in an article of India Today, 200 people were killed just in a day. Is this what you expect as a gift from a hero? As Machiavelli once said, a ruler must be prepared to take any action to protect his power and stability. This unfortunately still holds true in the current existing political system of the world. A conclusion was made by a research scholar who is also a former diplomat, US diplomat, and has its expertise in the field of South Asia and Middle East, specifically Pakistan and China. I would like to read out his conclusion. The existing military-dominated system in Pakistan would permit free and fair elections, but the establishment has long record of engineering the electoral playing field to achieve its preferred result, either by manipulating the candidate pool or directly interceding in the process, or through other means. So does the three principles of democracy still exist in the regime of these heroes? It's a loop, ladies and gentlemen, revolving around one central idea, that is hegemony, or one manpower. In the end, in a democratic country, we the people are the heroes. So let us not hero worship these leaders who exploit us every day in the name of leadership, or the leaders who turn democracy into closet dictatorship, where the leaders dominate over the common mass under the name of democracy. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All the four hands are up. Well, I'll start with Satakshi. I don't think you've asked a question yet.
You gave the example of Saddam Hussein. Before him, Iraq was a monarchy, constitutional monarchy, and after him, during his time, it was a dictatorship. So how did he weaken democracy?
Because he was elected by the choice was by the hero. The main topic here is hero worshipping. So the reason why Saddam Hussein became Saddam Hussein was because people hero worshipped him. No dictator till date, whoever has been born, would become a dictator until we would have given them that power. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, you haven't asked a question yet, Avinav?
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, if a democratic regime transforms into an authoritarian one, would you still consider the new regime under the principles of democracy? Or according to you, does the very definition of democracy change from time to time?
Well, the reason why democracy changed into any other form of government is because of, again, bringing back the same topic, hero worshipping. If a country is a democratic country, what's better than that? If today I tell you that tomorrow India is going to become a dictatorship, would you question that, okay, how would I defend democracy in India? Or would you accept it or would you deny it? Unfortunately, you can't deny because in dictatorship, we do not have the freedom of expression. Thank you.
Thank you, Deepnita. You may take your seat. In a country that routinely elects film stars to be chief ministers and woos cricketers in the hope that they will become a political leader, I wonder where the lines are actually drawn. The last speaker for the debate today, speaking against the motion, is Avinav Chatterjee. Avinav is from studies in class 11 and he wants to pursue a career in research in the sciences. Avinav, over to you.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I must say I see many aspiring politicians here. When I first came onto this, the one thing I realized after listening to the first speakers of proposition, I was reminded of this great scientist, being a student of science myself, Erwin Schrödinger. He had an experiment where he put a cat in a box and subjected it to poison. And there was no way of telling whether the cat is alive or dead until and unless you open the box. However, I assure you, listening to their speeches, the cat is dead without the box being opened. So, ladies and gentlemen, when I first read this motion, I was all the more inclined to agree with George Orwell when he said, all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. In fact, reading this motion made me realize that we'd soon have the proposition coming up here and blaming zebras for ruining black and white photography or blaming giraffes for being bad at hide and seek. That is how ridiculous the very interpretation of this motion by side proposition is. At the very onset, let me make it fundamentally clear who is a hero. Like the moderator of this debate said, some are born great, but I can assure you no heroes are born. Heroes are simply a figment of our imagination. They are created in the minds of people. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no concept of a universal objective hero, that person A will become a hero. To me, my mother is a hero. To me, the local fireman is a hero. To me, the organizers of this debate are undisputed hero for presenting us with the arguments of side proposition. Ladies and gentlemen, to begin with, the very definition of a hero in a democracy, or be in any party or any regime for that matter, is subjective. It changes from person to person. And for that matter, the very meaning of a hero arises in the minds of a people. And frankly, our ability and our perception to romanticize anything that is above normal. To some, Alexander Great is a military genius. To me, he's simply a tyrant who had too much time on his hands. With this, let me move into the definition of a democracy. Understand, to put it in layman terms, democracy is simply a system where there is the fundamental law of collective responsibility, be that be used to govern a country, be that be used to govern an organization, or even be that be used to govern houses. For example, when my mother throws a slipper at me every morning to wake me up, I think it is highly undemocratic of her. Ladies and gentlemen, understand the fact that the principles of a democracy are not related or not just subjected to ruling that of a country. That is political democracy. This debate encompasses the very concept of democracy as a whole. So it is extremely myopic to limit the very prospect of democracy to that of just or merely simply ruling a country. Now, demos and kratos has already been mentioned by the proposition, which I will not bring up anymore. Which brings me to my first constructive. Democracy is not dependent on heroes in the first place, simply because democracy does not believe in heroes. Understand, ladies and gentlemen, what qualifies as a hero. A hero is an individual which I, myself, from my personal experience, put him on a pedestal. However, democracy does not believe in any of this. If today a doctor is a hero on saving a patient's life, that patient will consider the doctor as a hero. Democracy will consider the doctor as simply carrying out his civic duties. Ladies and gentlemen, democracy will and always place everyone on an equal pedestal, which is why the very concept of heroes weakening democracy does not arise in the first place. Understand, ladies and gentlemen, the very concept of Hitler, the very concept of political leaders were brought about in this debate, more than the number of flaws I could point out in the speeches of side proposition. However, we need to understand that these historical leaders, they were never a product of democracy in the first place. They were a product of the people who believed that following or blindly objectifying their propagandas will lead to a better form of government. Understand that if you have a broken roof and there is leakage, you cannot justify yourself by blaming that the roof is to blame. Understand that these products of democracy never exist in the first place. And as a result, you cannot justify your entire blame on pushing the blame on this very concept and this fundamental aspect of democracy. The opposition also brought about the points of personal cult and how when a hero emerges, people tend to become lazy. Well, if I admire Usain Bolt and I consider him as a hero, I will not expect him to carry me to work every morning. Understand this is where the fundamental distinguish lies in this debate. Understand these very personal cons, the deification of heroes. These are concepts which are not supported in a democracy. Understand that a democracy supports equals. It supports collective responsibility, which then brings us to the fundamental question. What does weaken a democracy? It is our Yes, give me 20 seconds. It is our collective responsibility that weakens democracy in the first place. It is not the function of a single individual on whom the very four pillars of democracy stands. To quote late Dr. Sandeep Chatterjee, who was one of the doyens of Calcutta Debating Circle, I believe side proposition has put about the relationship between democracy and heroes to that of a mother-in-law and a daughter-in-law. Thank you.
No, stand there. You have questions to handle. Yes, Arya, you go first.
So at the latter half of your speech, you based it entirely on how democracy is all about collective responsibility. But at the same time, you were bashing the proposition on the fact that we use Hitler. So let me get to the crux of why Hitler was elected at the first place.
Question mark should happen.
Yes, sir.
Quickly.
Hitler was elected because people believed that he had a way to get out of the troubles Germany was in after the First World War. Therefore, he was a hero for the people because he provided that way. So how can you disagree with the fact that Hitler was never a hero?
Right. I never disagree the fact that Hitler was never a hero. In fact, he was hero for many people. What I disagree with the fact that this image of hero which you speak about Hitler, he was never a product of democracy. That is what I disagree with. In fact, you can have multiple heroes. You can have heroes of villains. You can have political leaders as heroes. In fact, your very argument or proposition has limited the purview of this debate to political heroes, which I strongly disagree with. But the primary question lies in the fact, are these heroes the product of democracy? Thank you.
Who has a second question? Yes. Bitanu?
Through your speech, did you alienate heroes from democracy in its entirety?
Right. A true hero, for that matter, is one that emerges from the framework of democracy. Understand that if an apple turns into an orange, you no longer identify that orange as an apple. For that same reason, ladies and gentlemen, the very concept of a hero is not just restricted to democracy. A hero can exist anywhere. But the purview or the principal question that we must answer is he the product of democracy, or is he the product of the people who believe that we should follow this person because he will lead to a better form of government? Because then the principles of democracy as a process, as a how to approach a problem, no longer stand valid. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Abhinav. Please take your seat. We've heard 8 speeches on this motion, and meanwhile, let me welcome Mr. Khemka, who's here from Akash. Thank you so much for your support, sir. And we are actually looking forward to doing a similar event in Bihar with you, at Patna with you. And in fact, there are 4 students from Patna here who've come to hear this debate on their own. So we've heard 8 absolutely brilliant speeches, and while the judges are adding up their score sheets and Natasha's hovering over their shoulder in the hope of getting the tabulation started, you know, we've had a day when we were wondering whether it's heroes or it's villain. The second surprise of the debate was the most popular man appeared to be one mustachioed gentleman born in Germany, who served in the First World War in distinction, was a hero for his nation, but is generally regarded as one of the greatest villains in the history of humanity. The third issue is that Bangladesh came in so late in the debate. I would have thought at a debate held in Kolkata in West Bengal, the issue of Bangladesh and particularly the status of the nation builder, Mujibur Rahman, who has descended from a hero to a fallen statue, would come up earlier in the debate, but I'm still very glad that you raised the issue. We've had a lot of international references, which is very interesting and indeed very heartening to see all of you have studied this motion. You got it about 48 hours or 72 hours before the time of the debate. Very often, we have heard quotations by wise people from Kipling to Brecht and to so many others being mentioned. And at the same time, we heard a lot of logic that was original to you. And actually, we've come here to hear you. If I want to hear Shakespeare, chances are that I'll go to YouTube and hear Shakespeare. We actually wanted to hear what you had to say. And all of you, above all, I was impressed by your originality. While the selection of examples naturally restricts what you are speaking on, you spoke with originality and you used far less quotations than I've seen being used in school debates, which are generally a little quotation heavy. You know, sometimes it's almost like a musical. You proceed from quotation to quotation with a few intervening words in between, like sorry, okay, and then you go into the next quotation. So I'm very glad that you spoke with your own thoughts. I think the judges will bear me out. There was very little reading, which is also a very important part of a debate, because as I said, you're not a Doordarshan news reader, you're not on a teleprompter, like a television presenter. But above all, I think the high point of the debate was the civility in which it was conducted. I mean, the violence of the speeches was matched by the harshness of the questions, but at the same time, it was perfectly balanced. And not a single personal reference did I hear other than the attribution of a statement to a certain speaker. And I was very encouraged to note that sometimes speakers even referred to the statements of the opposition and said, I agree with a part of what you said, but I think your interpretation is all wrong, and then you went off there. So I'm so glad about that. Also, you listened. You actually listened to your opponent, which is not something that we see very often in the Indian spectrum. Somebody mentioned Rabindranath. Who was it? Amra shobai raja amader ei rajar rajotte. And in any debate in Kolkata, you know, three names inevitably come up. They are Rabindranath, but the two others were not mentioned today, which is Satyajit Ray, whose Hirok Raja Deshe should have perhaps been mentioned. And of course, Amartya Sen, but then maybe Sharon scared you into staying off Amartya Sen, what with his Cornell PhD in economics and various other attributes. But I'm very glad that while you refer to the ability of absolute power to corrupt people, while you refer to so many of these other aspects of both heroism and democracy, you also referred to the fact that totalitarian regimes also tend to build up heroes. So ultimately, sometimes a hero, you have to look at a phenomenon that is it built up or are they born great? Some of you agree violently with the fact that they are people who are born heroes. Right? How many of you agree that heroes acquire greatness? And how many of you think heroes have greatness thrust upon them? No names, Shankar. We are maintaining a Catholic session here. And how many of you actually think some people are born heroes? Again, time and place, I guess interpretation changes. So with these few words, may I request the judges to come forward with their comments, and we'll start. Mayuri, will you go first? Would you like to come here or would you like to speak from there? Okay, speak. Yeah, just come here. It's better for the camera also, and that is better. Okay. We are dictated by the media, as in so many other things in 21st century India.
Sometimes in debates, there's one speaker that emerges and So that's the hero of the debate. But I'm glad to say that there were firmly 8 heroes debating today. I really appreciate that there used to be a time when we were given the rules of debating. It said political comments are to be avoided. And I'm glad to say that we've come so far from there. And whether it's mentions of Bangladesh or Syria, it's heartening to know that not only do you read about this and think about it, but you are brave enough to speak about it, which is something that I always encourage. I think regarding today's motion, there was so much discussion on heroes, but about very specific heroes and not on the nature of how a hero is created or what circumstances lead to the creation of heroes. I think if that was explored, we would have been able to find a stronger link with democracy itself. Because if there is one impetus behind debating a motion like this, it is because the political turbulence of our times somehow demands a hero, or we look out for a hero. Whether doctors are protesting, or farmers are protesting, or students are protesting, there is a section of society looking at them, no matter where they are in the world, waiting for someone to emerge, waiting for a young leader to emerge, a hero to emerge, so that we don't have to say, if not this person, we don't have an option, right? So that we have more electoral options itself. So, society is looking for heroes, and there are reasons for that. And I think if we were able to probe that a bit in the debate today, some links to democracy would have been established more firmly. Because what happened and what tends to happen is that if a debate is dominated by examples, which in this case were truly relevant, they were. But at one point, a speaker, the hero of the debate, would have to say, we've had enough of this, and we now need to look at the why. Why is it coming up, or how is it important to the bigger argument that we are trying to make? So, as someone who, all three of us this year saw Trump come back to a place where we live and work. And we also know that despite a certain section of the people wanting an Obama back, the rules dictate that he cannot come back. So, there are inherent checks that allow or have some mechanism to prevent unfettered rule. And that is also democracy, right? That is also a form of democratic checks, a form of checks and balance that has the foresight to see what is required, even if the debate comes to this idea of heroes. Similarly, we are now sitting in a country which has the highest rate of anti-incumbency in the world. We will vote out people in power because they are in power. So there are ways to focus on the word democracy itself beyond its definition that would make this debate more holistic. But all said and done, I think everyone really did a good job. Not a single boring moment. And that's commendable. Thank you so much for having me.
First of all, congratulations to all 8 of you for coming so far and traveling this very morning to be here. We're very happy to have you. I think it was a fantastic debate. Like Moyuri said, there was not one dull moment. And this motion, I think, was very difficult. Pradeep Uncle sent this to me a few days ago, and I was thinking about it on my own time. And it's difficult to come up with arguments precisely because of, one, how relevant it is today, and because you're sort of left wondering, am I participating in the weakening of democracy by glorifying the people that I am glorifying today? But also because
there's two big concepts here that are in tension with one another, right? You have democracy, which is fundamentally about equality, political equality, as some of you have pointed out, but even in other spheres. And then on the other hand, you have heroes, which requires, by its definition, elevation, right? Regardless of how heroes are produced or made, it requires elevation above everybody else. And I think this tension was brought out really well in all of your speeches. When I was thinking about this motion, there were two people that came to mind, very different kinds of heroes, but ones that have dominated the news cycle over the last couple of weeks. One is Luigi Mangione, who was the person who shot an insurance CEO in the middle of New York. And if you have been in the United States for the last couple of weeks, you know that he is being hailed as a hero because he represented dissatisfaction with insurance companies, right? And so in that way, perhaps a hero is expressive of democratic values, even though what he did was very undemocratic of him. On the other hand, you have Gisèle Pelicot, the woman in France whose rape trial ended just yesterday, who was raped over a decade by 50 men, and who chose to not be anonymous, who chose to have a public trial to bring to light sexual violence in France. And she is being celebrated as a hero in her own right, but for very different reasons. What she is trying to do is change public opinion, not express it. And I think these two examples bring out the difficulty with a motion like this, because the word hero, as all of you have brought up, is highly contested. It depends on who you ask, at what point in time, and what purpose they serve. So I think fantastic job from all of you for bringing out those tensions. One minor point I will say is that we have a tendency when we're talking about an abstract individual to use masculine pronouns. So every time you were talking about heroes, you said he is a great leader, we elect him. And I want you to be mindful of the fact that it's a verbal crutch that we rely on, and you should resist it. So when you're talking about an unidentified individual, mix it up once in a while, use she. But fantastic job. It's been such a pleasure to be back in this hall where Moiri, Sharon, and I have debated each other. Thank you to CDC for organizing this.
Last time I debated in this hall was probably 10 to 11 years ago. I can still feel... 10 to 11 years ago, probably, because I think when I was representing presidency, we always used to debate in the other hall. So as, in terms of memories, I would say that my legs are still a little jittery when I come up here. But first of all, I'll probably go into a few things. I have a few thoughts in terms of what I was noting down while I was doing marking the contestants. So congratulations to everyone. Great speeches, not a single dull moment at all whatsoever. This is probably far better than what we could have imagined ourselves putting up when we were in school. So in terms of originality, great. Just one thing to keep in mind when you all, construct your speeches, and this is something which, you all can sort of practice, and this comes through practice, is structure. So the way you all should think about your speeches is one sentence should automatically segue into the next. So sometimes when you all want to sort of make points, think about how each sentence is sort of segueing into the next sentence. So that sort of leads an automatic structure into your argument. So every sentence or every paragraph, the way you all are constructing it, should sort of lead on to the next paragraph, right? So it should be a self-contained speech in itself. The other thing that I would like to sort of emphasize is the fact that please practice or sort of force yourselves to engage with what's happening in the debate live. So towards, in the middle, I was seeing a little less engagement because you all were so busy with your own speeches. But these sorts of debates and these sorts of motions become very, very much more interesting when you all sort of actually engage with the points which are being brought by side proposition and side opposition. So a little bit of engagement across the aisle would have sort of taken the debate to another level. This was a fantastic debate, just again, points in terms of how you all can improve your own skills going forward. Coming to the motion, just tell me how long I have so that I don't keep rambling on. Coming to the motion, this is a tough motion. This is a very, very tough motion. I had a lot of thoughts in my head for the past 48 hours when I was thinking about how to go about this motion. I sort of looked at it in three silos. I looked at what a democracy, I I looked at what a democracy was, I looked at heroes, and I looked at something which I don't think people really spoke a lot about today, but to me it was very important, is the process of weakening. People really did not talk about the process of weakening. We assumed that a democracy is good when it has a good hero, or we assumed that a democracy is bad when it has bad heroes. We didn't talk about the gray area or that long process in the middle when the erosion of democratic institutions happens. So the way I thought about it was, very simply, even in a democracy when we sort of demos and kratos and all of these other things, it's always good to go back to ancient Greece, but in the 21st century, we have multiple forms of democracy today. We've got a liberal democracy, we've got a functional democracy, we've also got something called an illiberal democracy today. What we're seeing in Europe today with the rise of the far right, if you see Hungary, if you see what's happening in sections of the United States, there has been a major shift in what we perceive as a democracy, even in India for that matter. So we move away from a liberal to an illiberal democracy. So we're still operating within the fundamentals of a democratic system, of majoritarian politics, but we're moving away from one form of democracy to another. And that's where the role of heroes starts coming in. We see champions, we see political champions coming in. These can be champions who are central political figures, right? So for instance, if we want to talk about, if side proposition wants to talk about Donald Trump, side opposition can also talk about people like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, who've actually been pushing a countercurrent in terms of, keeping alive the spirit of dissent in the country. But in terms of what was missing, and I think this is what you all can actually work upon, is to think about this motion in terms of a process, in terms of weakening. Because even within a democracy, when we look at a champion, there were mentions of cults, and I was hoping someone would say that deification of a hero elevates that hero not to a hero but to a god. When the fine margin over here is when a hero starts thinking of himself not as a hero but as a god. And when he thinks that he's beyond the rule of law and that he's able to shape society in his own will, then that person starts weakening the institutions of democracy. So when side proposition was actually talking about the fact that yes, these are heroes, Mugabe, Hitler, all of these other people, and side opposition was going and saying, okay, no, these are important people, but again, we're not looking at heroes in that macro sense, and we're looking at heroes in another sense altogether. The simple argument is these are people who were heroes once upon a time, but again, democracy is a process. It is a multi-stage process. Elections happen, it's cyclical, and these people who you're quoting, these are not heroes, but they have transcended away from heroes to think of them as self-styled champions and gods. Because the moment you think about cult and deification, you are basically talking about pandering to someone who's himself thought of going beyond institutions. So these were my thoughts about the motion. So in terms of the overall quality of debate, very, very good. Congratulations to everyone. This is probably far, far, far better than what many of us could have done in our school as well as in our college debate. So thank you, everyone. Congratulations for a fantastic quality of debate. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sharon. I plead completely guilty for this motion if it is being described as difficult. But we were so impressed with the quality of speeches that we heard from the finalists here, and in fact from many of the semi-finalists. We could have actually expanded this finals to cover about at least 11 speakers. At least 3 more were very close to qualifying, but that would have been an odd number. And in any case, our original structure was to have a debate of 8. I'm very happy at the way that it's been handled. Natasha, please come on stage. Maybe you need to use the podium much more than me in the... Yeah? Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to know, is there anybody in the audience who wishes to ask a question? Any student debater in the audience who is not in the finals here but wishes to ask a question? In the meanwhile, I can see Shirsha and Moinak. Welcome. Thank you. They are our young CDC scholars who've been part of our process. Thank you for coming. Anybody in the audience has a question? Yes, I can see. You're from MCKB, right? Yeah. Can you just come forward? because otherwise getting the mic to you might prove to be a little more difficult. Come forward, come forward. Come along the side. So this is one of the institutions where we went for a training session in summer of this year, sorry. Yeah, ask a question. Brief question, huh?
My name is Pratyash Koisaria. I am from class 9. I am in class 9 from MC Kejriwal Vidyapeeth. My question is, consider figures like Nelson Mandela versus other who may have overshaded institutions. How does media amplify or critique the role of such figures in democracies?
Who is this question addressed to? Any specific target? On the side proposition, yes. So he is referring to Nelson Mandela, who in his own way undermined institutions. So how do you see that?
Sir, could you repeat the question? I could not get the last bit.
Can you repeat the question, please, the last bit?
How does media amplify or critique the role of such figures in democracies?
See, over here there are two things at play. Number one, media inside the country, and number two, media outside the country. Now, when you talk about the South African struggle as a whole, Nelson Mandela was, yes, he was elected the president. But at the same time, you had a lot more figures at play. For example, Mr. Sobukwe and a lot more people. Now, these people were very, very influential as a part of an organization called the African National Congress. However, the real thing is, within the country, these people were seen as heroes, and they were indeed heroes. And the actual criticism that arose was from medias that stemmed from outside the nation. Therefore, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. One more question. Yes, I can see a raised hand. Just one more and then we'll end because we are running a little...
Sir, I think that...
who are you asking the question to? This side or that side?
The proposition.
Yeah.
So I was asking that the heroes, these heroes actually who became, who were actually leaders, who were elected by the people, so they became the heroes of the country or of a state. So they mostly concentrate on strengthening their position rather than thinking the structural reforms or on the, they don't think collectively, and they most think about the strengthening their positions. So I think how that is weakening.
Okay. You got his question? Who wants to
Yes, sir. I'll go for it. So what is democracy? Democracy is for the people, of the people, and by the people. Therefore, the main purpose of a leader is to work for the betterment of the people through numerous reforms, be it institutional, be it economic, etc., etc. Now, the point that you brought up is when a leader solely focuses on, improving his conditions, on solidifying his rule over a long period of time, that undermines democracy. Because what is democracy? Democracy also refers to change. Because over a long period of time, you have changes in ideologies, you have changes in policies, you have changes in the thought processes of men. Now, when you have one leader trying to strengthen his position, he might be a commie from a long time back who's still ruling countries. You had Fidel Castro and Raul Castro, and they kept on ruling until a few years back. But was their ideology progressive enough? Were their policies progressive enough to bring into perspective the welfare of the people? That is the main question that.
Thank you, Arya. Take your seat. Please take your seat. No, I think we are really out of time. Mr. Khemka, would you like to say a few words? No? Okay, right. Are we ready with the results, Natasha? In the meanwhile, we have a very pleasant duty of felicitating our two friends who made this possible. Is there anybody from the St. Xavier's institution here?
I'm sure all of us here really enjoyed that insightful debate and the perspective on democracy in general. So that the debate being out of the way, we would now like to facilitate the people who actually helped us in making this debate a reality. I would like to invite upon Mr. Pradeep Guptu to facilitate, and Mr. Shankar Ramalingam, please, on the stage. May I please call upon Mr. Khemka, Director, Akash Institute, on the stage. He's being felicitated by Mr. Pradeep Guptu, Trustee, Calcutta Debating Circle, and Mr. Shankar Ramalingam, Managing Trustee, Calcutta Debating Circle. I don't see father anywhere actually, so I think we can proceed with the first recognize the finalists, followed by the winners. So we at CDC believe that we are like we want to express our deep felt gratitude towards all of you who have made your way to the finals, and we have everything for like each of you. Not everything for each of you. Like I'm a little confused anyway. I mean, forget it. So I would now like to recognize the finalists, starting off with Bhasha Bhattacharya of South Point High School. Can we have a big round of applause, please? Thank you, Bhasha. Next is Agnish Chatterjee. I would like to call you on the stage. I would request Director Sir to kindly felicitate Agnish. Arya Bhattacharya. Yes, and a certificate. Next up, we have Satakshi Ghosh. Please, can we have a louder round of applause, please? I can understand all of us are tired. Next is Bitanu Bishash, all the way from Durgapur. Whatever is there. Next up, we have Deepnita. It's fine. Yes. We'll just have to exchange it later. I'll see you. And then we have Abhinav Chatterjee.
Abhinav Chatterjee.
For the sake of picture. Certificate ka diya tha? अरे ठीक আছে. Okay, so what we are going to do is that we are going to, Devdeep Roy. I think they have gone for lunch. So what we can do is we can proceed with the announcement of the results, and after that we can give out the mementos to them later on. Now, being a one-woman army, I ended up confusing a few of the awards, so some of you might have to return the awards, but don't worry, we have got something in exchange for that. Don't worry about that. Anyway, so we have the results here.
You cannot have a decent program in India without the mic playing up sometime or the other. That's a certificate of honor. Okay. The second runner-up in today's debate by the unanimous decision of the judges is Bitonu Bishwas. This is your thing, and sir, will you hand this over, please? We are still writing the certificates, we'll give it to you. Thank you, Bitonu. The first runner-up is Arya Bhattacharya. Sir, if you can hand this over. And Shankar, eta tumi do. Arya face. So his long line of medals actually paid off. One day I will decipher them and tell you what they are all about.
School captain, congratulations.
He's a very good debater. Right. And the best speaker this morning stroke afternoon is none other than Devdipto Roy of St. Xavier's. Yeah. And a trophy ta dena. Shankar, please. Please, no. God bless. Face the camera, please. Thank you. Any other announcements to be made, Natasha? I think vote of thanks, Shankar. Yes. The judges, may I request them to please come up one after the other. First, Sharon Banerjee. This is just a small token and honorarium on your side, from our side, Sharon. Roshni Chakraborty. Shankar, will you do the honors, please, with Roshni? To help you buy a few books. And Mayuri Mukherjee. Mayuri, it's always a pleasure having you. I think we were greatly enriched by the comments made by the judges. I think student debaters who've been here. And I thank once again all the schools who visited us, the teachers in charge, the parents, and for taking this morning out and coming to listen to this debate. We will be having more events like this. We will also be in the summer break, be conducting training like we conducted earlier this year. So summer of 2025, we will again be having a group of student debating club chairpersons as well as professional trainers to conduct training all over West Bengal. And hopefully this year we'll be visiting Siliguri also to conduct a 2-day training if things work out all right. And remember, your next important date is 11th January for the Calcutta Debating Circle public debate. Please keep your ears and ears alert and your eyes open, not the other way around, although it's inevitable. And track us, call us, and ensure that you attend. Your teachers, your parents are also most welcome to attend. And once again, in absentia, I wish to thank the school that's visiting us from Patna. I think they've also gone for lunch. The entire audiovisual team doing the recording, thank you so much.
We would request the participants to please come up here for a group photo along with the judges.
8, yes. And Shankar, yes, please.
Mr. Chaudhary.
Before you come here for just a moment, these were the students who came from Patna, but I don't see them now. Sanvi Arora, Raj Nandani, Chinmoy, Chaitanya Kumar, Kanaya Tiwari, along with the teacher Sharon Joseph and Father P. Bhaskar. St. Xavier School sent them some special mementos on this occasion because this is a guest to all of us. But I don't see any of them. Maybe they might have gone for lunch. And I personally would like to thank Father Roshan Turkey, principal of St. Xavier School, who agreed to be a host. And I have a special word of thanks. I would call them the non-resident judges panel. None of them live anymore in this country. So it is an NRI panel who actually judged the resident debate. Ex-CDC and ex-Calcutta, that's the fresh blood we have. Once again, thank you, Akash, for standing by us, and thanks for the entire management and the boy here. Sumon, thank you very much for your support. And thank you, Natasha, also for, in spite of your one-woman army, you did very well. We will give you more women. And before we go for the group photograph, thank you once again. Some teachers have come from some schools. Thank you for escorting your students. On your way out, there is still some hot tea and biscuits. You can have it. And on the left is the boys' school. On the girls' is we have a co-ed college. But there is a lot of women's toilets on the right. You can freshen up, and that's it. Thank you from my side.
You can make out Shankar studied here. He knows the geography, so well. Yes, can we have the participants, the finalists and the judges for a group photograph? Natasha, Kamalesh and
What is it?
Shankar.
Chair? We can put the chair.